official, but not for President Duterte, who wants presidential aspirant Senator Bongo as his daughter's running mate. And it's a universe of trouble for Peter Parker as more old foes return in the new trailer of Spider-Man: No Way Home. A big day for medical frontliners today as the administration of the long-awaited COVID-19 booster shot begins. There are over 1.6 million health workers nationwide who may now receive an extra dose. What do you know so far about this? Carolyn Bonkin reports.
Fully vaccinated medical frontliners lined up at the National Kidney and Transplant Institute on Wednesday. They completed COVID-19 vaccine doses between March and early May. Now, they're getting a booster shot. Among the first in line are doctors, nurses, and other hospital staff in the COVID patient area.
Malaking bagay, lalo na nasa frontline ako sa cashier. So, hindi lang pasyente, yung mga relative na pwede naming sabihin na carrier, isa yon sa naging namin, parang protective shield yung bakuna talaga.
It is very important for our healthcare workers who deal with these patients who are at very high risk for severe COVID disease to make sure that they are protected.
The hospital's executive director is among those who had asked the national government for booster doses.
Mabababa ang antibody level nila. Nasabi namin, sila ngayon ay baka magkaroon ng impeksyon dahil sila ang nasa frontliner.
A health department memorandum lists now the guidelines for the administration of booster doses to medical frontliners beginning November 17.
Health workers may now choose their preferred vaccine as booster. They may opt for the same vaccine or a different brand as long as it is among those recommended by the DOH and there is supply.
The approved boosters are single doses of Pfizer, Sinovac, and AstraZeneca, and half a dose of Moderna vaccine. If the initial shots received were from Pfizer, Moderna, Sinovac, AstraZeneca, and Gamaleya, you may take the booster 6 months after completing the 2 doses. If the single dose Janssen was taken, booster is available after 3 months. But for those who initially got AstraZeneca, a different vaccine is more recommended. Those who previously had a negative reaction to COVID vaccine have to check with a doctor first and are recommended to use the same brand.
With heterologous vaccinations, studies point out that more adverse reactions are expected, especially with the mRNA vaccines.
With these options, infectious diseases experts say you need to think twice before getting an extra dose. It's optional, not mandatory.
If you want a booster, hindi ko magagaranti na that's useful, and hindi ko rin magagaranti na there won't be a bad side effect.
The government wants to give boosters to as many medical frontliners as they can before COVID cases spike again. Senior citizens and those with compromised immune systems are next in line for booster shots.
Pinaka-earliest is next week. Ang pinaka-latest is isasama na natin siya sa National Vaccination Day, the 29th.
There will be separate guidelines for each of these groups for the immunocompromised. Meron din yan. No? Hindi naman kasi lahat ng may comorbidities bibigyan mo.
The rest of the population has to wait for next year to get their booster shots. Carolyn Bonkin, CNN Philippines.
An additional 3.5 million doses of the Chinese-made Sinovac COVID-19 vaccines arrive in the country. Vaccine czar Carlito Galvez says the latest shipment completes the delivery of Sinovac vaccines procured by the government through the Asian Development Bank. Galvez adds these shots will be used as booster doses for healthcare workers and during the 3-day national vaccination drive scheduled for November 29th to December 1st. So far, over 128.44 million doses of vaccines have arrived in the country. These include purchases by the national and local governments and donations from the COVAX facility and other nations. The country has administered 71.68 million vaccines since the inoculation program kicked off in March. Over 39 million people already got their first dose and more than 32.2 million are fully vaccinated. That's equivalent to 29.23% of the total population. The goal is to vaccinate 77 million or 70% of the total population. Drug regulators approved the emergency use of another brand of COVID-19 vaccine in the country. The U.S.-based biotechnology company Novavax has been granted emergency use authorization for its vaccine called Covovax. Covovax is manufactured by the Serum Institute of India. The Food and Drug Administration says Covovax is a protein subunit type of vaccine that has an efficacy rate of 89.7%. The vaccine may be administered to individuals aged 18 and above. The FDA says Covovax will be given in 2 doses and should not be less than 21 days apart. The vaccine could possibly be used towards the end of the year or in 2022. And while the lifting of the face shield policy is welcome news for Filipinos in areas under alert level 1 to 3, our Tristan Odalo tells us the new rule takes a toll on vendors as well as on the environment.
From commuters to mall goers to daily workers, Filipinos heave a sigh of relief after the government lifted the mandatory use of face shield in areas under alert levels 1 to 3. Not to mention the added expense of buying face shields on a regular basis.
Mas okay po kasi hindi na siya hassle. Itatabi na lang po para in case na may mga lugar pa na nagpaparequire pa rin ng face shield, di na ako gagastos.
Masaya na din kasi nakakahinga ka ng mabuti. And din bawas pa din sa gastos.
But not everyone is happy, especially the vendors who rely on face shield sales.
Ito, lugi na ako. Wala na akong pagkakakitaan. Dito lang.
Wala naman tayong magagawa kung free na tayo sa facial, di ba? Eh, hindi naman ako bumibili ng maramihan.
Use of face shields is still required in hospitals, quarantine facilities, and areas under alert level 5 and granular lockdowns. Now that Filipinos are saying goodbye to face shields, the question now is, where do millions of these plastic barriers go? The Environment Department says don't throw them away just yet and consider these options.
We can recycle the face shields. It can be turned into other construction materials. It can be recycled back to plastics. It can be an alternative fuel. And all of these are already available nationwide.
An estimated 65 million face shields were used so far based on the data gathered by the Environment Department. Environmental groups are sounding the alarm on the long-term impact of this plastic waste. Barangay San Antonio in Pasig faces the challenge by launching an initiative collecting trash in exchange of ayuda or goods.
Basura to ayuda, we segregate from the household level. So you segregate your plastics, your used cartons, your used oils, and so forth. And monthly, we create an eco-hub. Participants or residents can bring their trashes here in exchange for rice grains. 3 kilos of plastic is in exchange for 1 kilo of rice.
The barangay will collect used face shields beginning November 27th and will team up with organizations to recycle the plastic items. Tristan Odalo, CNN Philippines.
More institutions get the green light to hold limited face-to-face classes. The Interagency Task Force allowed universities under alert levels 1 to 3 to hold limited in-person classes, but they must meet these conditions. Indoor venue capacity is at 50%. Local governments do not oppose the program, and participating teaching and non-teaching personnel, as well as students, are fully vaccinated. The IATF also approved the phased implementation of classes. Phase 1 begins December 1st, where institutions under alert level 2 may sign up. The next phase will take place in January for universities under alert level 3. Coming up on Newsnight, another boost amid the global health crisis. Pfizer wants U.S. authorities authorization for its anti-COVID drug. And it seems President Duterte wants a different running mate for his daughter, vice presidential aspirant Sara Duterte. Details next here on CNN Philippines.
Kini ang RPN Dex Kini Radio Runda 1053 kHz. Quincentenary Faith Rewind.
Ferdinand Magellan died in the hands of Dato Lapu-Lapu in the Battle of Mactan. Spanish navigator Juan Sebastian Elcano took command of the voyage, which finally reached the Spice Islands. To date, the expedition is also known as Magellan-Elcano Expedition.
KBP marks 500 years of Christianity and this station.
Honorable Angel Halusos Carrion, Batanon, Buutan ug Malagaron, City Councilor of Dapitan City, Chairman, Committee on Tourism, Committee on Labor, Committee on Child Welfare and Development. Honorable Angel Halusos Carrion, Batanon, Buutan ug Malagaron, City Councilor of Dapitan City.
RPN Dexki Radio Runda 1053 kHz.
Here's what you'll be needing for this cocktail. For the tools, you'll need... We start by adding ice into our mixing glass, and in goes your GSM Premium Gin. And then we add our dry vermouth. Finally, the strawberry syrup for some sweetness. Now take your bar spoon. Once all blended nicely, grab your strainer and pour your cocktail into your martini glass. Garnish this with some fresh strawberries. There you have it, your strawberry martini made with GSM Premium Gin.
Namamasko po! This Christmas, we may not be celebrating the way we used to because of the ongoing pandemic. But there is still a lot to be grateful for. And definitely a lot of ways we can share the Christmas spirit with others.
Ngayong Pasko, bukod sa paghahanda natin ng salo-salo sa sarili nating tahanan, samahan niyo po kami ni Isa na mag-sponsor ng iba pang pamilya para sa kanilang Pure Foods Noche Buena. Mula sa halagang 800 pesos, maaari na tayong magbahagi ng Pure Foods Fiesta Ham, Tender Juicy Hotdog, TJ Spaghetti Sauce.
Your new favorite viands are also now made ready to eat by Pure Foods. Crispy fried chicken, caldereta, kare-kare, and many more. Your Noche Buena can be ready in as little as 50 minutes.
Wow!
Bilis!
Isang kompleto at masayang pagdiriwang ng Noche Buena ang naghihintay para sa inyo at para sa pamilyang reregaluhan ninyo ng Pure Foods Noche Buena Pack.
Ito ay mahanap sa San Miguel Foods website. Magtungo sa thehub.sanmiguel.com.ph. Let us continue the spirit of Christmas giving so more of us can celebrate the season.
Sama-sama po tayong magdiwang ng Pasko! Buo ang Pasko sa Paskong Pure Foods!
Welcome back to CNN Philippines. In world headlines, Pfizer seeks regulatory approval in the United States for its experimental antiviral pill to treat COVID-19. A clinical trial shows the drug called Paxlovid reduced the risk of hospitalization or death in mild to moderate cases by 89%. But these are results from an interim analysis done before the trial ended. The new pill needs to be administered with an older antiviral within the first 3 days of symptoms to be effective. U.S. President Joe Biden makes it clear he is not encouraging Taiwan's independence from China. Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping met yesterday for a high-stakes virtual summit amid growing tensions between their nations. The American leader recognized Beijing's claim of sovereignty over Taiwan during the talks, but affirmed the U.S. One China policy, which allows the Western country to have defense ties with a self-run island. The U.S. has been providing defensive support to Taiwan amid China's increasing military posturing. Now back here at home, several towns in the province of Zamboanga del Sur hit by floods and landslides. This was the result of heavy rains brought by the Intertropical Convergence Zone since Tuesday afternoon. In the town of Dumingag, a landslide covered the road connecting Zamboanga del Sur to Sundangan, Zamboanga del Norte. Floods and landslides also destroyed houses and crops in other towns. The Department of Agriculture is set to release the suggested retail price for pork this week. Pork prices have spiked by as much as 40 pesos ahead of the holiday season. Early this year, the DA imposed an SRP of 260 pesos per kilo of kasim and 290 pesos for liempo. Meanwhile, Agriculture Assistant Secretary Noel Reyes says the country lacks enough cold storage for imported pork.
One challenge is the available space sa cold storage facilities kasi
hindi lang pork ang nasa loob ng cold storage, di ba? Mga ice cream, processed foods in time for Christmas. We're allowing imports, but then again, the importers are not bringing as much kasi they couldn't do so because there's limited cold storage facility space, di ba? Because of the Christmas season.
In other news, the Presidential Commission on Good Government reports it has recovered close to 267 billion pesos of the Marcos family's ill-gotten wealth. Officials told senators the amount retrieved is over 174 billion pesos in cash and almost 94 billion pesos in non-cash assets. In September, the Sandiganbayan ordered the Royal Traders Holdings Incorporated to pay the government at least 367 million pesos. These include deposits made by the late dictator Ferdinand Marcos in bank certificates worth 96 million pesos and over $5.4 million. The PCGG is appealing the Sandiganbayan decision denying the return of 278,488 shares issued by the Royal Bank of Canada, allegedly owned by Marcos. The court, however, said there was lack of evidence to prove these were part of the ill-gotten wealth. The Justice Department says the appeal is pending in court. Presidential aspirant Leody de Guzman leads a commemoration for workers who died in a tragedy 40 years ago. 169 workers were buried under quick-drying cement on November 17, 1981, when the scaffolding collapsed during the construction of the Manila Film Center. De Guzman, a labor leader, called for justice for the victims and slammed the so-called golden age of infrastructure during the Marcos administration. De Guzman and his supporters also offered flowers with messages saying, quote, "Never again," in front of the theater. Let's now have an up-close conversation with Leody himself. Good evening po, Leody, and welcome to Newsnight.
Magandang gabi, Pia, at saka sa iyong mga taga-panood.
Oo. Leody, babalikan po natin yung Manila Film Center dahil pag-uusapan naman po natin si Bongbong Marcos. Pero ito na po muna, no? Kayo po ba mismo yung nagko-compose ng mga tweets ninyo? Kayo po mismo yung nagtitweet? Or is someone doing that for you? In other words, someone thinks of what you tweet as...
Mayroon akong team na nagdi-discussion para doon sa mga ilalabas na statement ko sa bawat issue o bawat araw.
So
kaya
pero
nagkakaroon kami ng diskusyon.
Okay, pero yung ideas mismo, sa inyo galing or sa kanila?
Sa akin din, minsan sa kanila, nagdi-discussion kami, nagpapalitan, sasabihin ko okay yan, sasabihin naman nila okay din yan, parang ganon, mayroon kaming team na nag-uusap-usap sa mga statement kong ilalabas.
Isa sa mga statements na nilabas po ninyo sa social media ay yung meron kayong parang challenge kay Sara Duterte na sige tumakbo ka para, and we quote, yung pagkamuhi daw sa pamilya nila lumabas daw kapag tumakbo si Sara and makikita daw sa elections. When you came out with that, Leody, ang tingin nyo ba tama yung statement nyo? Because if you look at the surveys, well, at the time, no, when she was still included doon sa presidential rankings, mataas ang survey ranking niya eh. So, paano po yun? How can you say na lalabas yung pagkamuhi or hindi siya mananalo sa eleksyon dahil galit ang tao sa kanyang pamilya?
May ganun akong reading na yung mga tao sa pagdating ng eleksyon ay magdi-decide at ang kanilang decision ay magbabatay doon sa kanilang halos 6 years na panunungkulan ng kanyang ama na hindi naman talaga nangyari yung pangako ng kanyang ama dahil sa ang paraan ay pananakot at palpak talaga yung kanyang ginawa sa nakalipas na halos mag-6 na taon na. At ang tingin ko ay magdi-decide ang taong bayan pagdating ng eleksyon.
Well, anong tingin po ninyo sa so-called BBM Bongbong Marcos, Sara Duterte tandem? Although nasa iba't ibang partido sila, they're supposed to be a tandem now. They're going to be supposedly running together. What do you think of that?
Tingin ko, isang natural na bagay yun, na talaga namang nagsasama-sama yung mga magkakapareho. Para nga bang yung lumang kasabihan na bird of the same feather flock together. Parehong dynastiya, parehong akusado sa pagnanakaw, pareho ding akusado sa pagpatay. Kaya natural sa tingin ko na magsama silang dalawa.
Pag sinabi po ninyo pagpatay, you're referring of course to the war on drugs of President Duterte. If you were president, if you won in the election and you were president, what kind, no? Anong klaseng war on drugs ang gagawin nyo? Dahil let's be honest, talagang problema naman talaga yung droga sa atin. So we do need to do something about it. But how would you handle it?
At hindi sa paraang pagpatay, talagang lalabanan yung droga. Pero ang approach ay hindi dun sa pagpapatayin yung mga involved at saka yung mga biktima ng droga, kundi ituklasin ano ba yung root cause ng droga. Ako naniniwala na malaking bahagi ng dahilan niyan ay yung laganap na kahirapan ng ating mga mamayan. Kaya dapat yun ang i-address. At itrato na ito'y isang health problem. At hindi ito mga parang police problem na sundalo at police ang ihaharap. Ganun ko i-approach ito. At tama pero yun nga, sa akin, yung root cause ng problem ang dapat i-address.
Okay, nabanggit po ninyo ang salitang health. So syempre, meron po tayong pandemya ngayon, this health crisis. How would you manage it differently?
Siyempre, yung sa COVID, dapat iba rin, no? Hindi rin parang solusyong militar ang paraan. At hindi dapat ang mga nagpapatakbo niyan at nagmamanage ay mga general ng ating mga kasundaluhan o kapulisan. Kundi dapat mga expert ng medical ang siyang dapat namumuno at nagpapasya doon sa mga dapat gawin. Doon sa drugs ay dapat rehabilitation. Kinakailangan ay i-rehabilitate natin, iligtas natin yung mga biktima ng droga at yung mga siyang nagpapakala, yung mga drug lord, ay dapat ay makulong ang lahat ng iyan. Hindi dapat patakasin.
Balik po tayo sa health crisis sa pandemya, Calyodi. Sino po yung pipiliin yung health secretary?
Pwede yan si Leachon na siyang parang vocal ngayon na nagpapaliwanag ng mga scientific na approach tungkol doon sa paglaban sa COVID. Pwede siya na isang contender para sa posisyon na yun.
Okay. Kanina lamang before we introduced you, Calyodi, napag-usapan po natin yung Manila Film Center. No? Of course, 1981, so that happened 40 years ago. In other words, there is an entire generation of Filipinos who don't even know that happened. No? So, ang tagal na ng panahon, 35, 36 years since EDSA 86. So, the question now is, you have Bongbong Marcos running, tapos ang daming nagsasabi, paano tayo nakarating sa puntong ito? Nagka-EDSA tayo noong 1986, although kayo pa sa kaliwa, no? Medyo wala po kayo sa EDSA. But anyway, ibang issue yon. Pero ang daming nagsasabi, kasalanan daw ng taong bayan dahil we have short memories. Now, we don't remember. That's why yung never again, never forget, para bang wala sa atin yun, ano? Pero pag tumingin po kayo sa history ng after EDSA, yung post-Marcos years, 35 years po yun, 26 years of those 35 years, mga administrations ng mga presidente na who were allied against Marcos. So ano po yung naging problema natin, Calyodi, sa tingin ninyo?
Ako tingin ko kung bakit nagkaganyan, ay yung mismong pangako ng EDSA ay hindi naman natupad. Walang nangyayari. Parang ipinagpatuloy lang yung mga pamamaraan, polisiya ng dating diktador na si Marcos. Yung inaasam ng mamaya na pagbabago ay hindi naman na i-deliver noong pumalit ng mga nagpalit-palit na gobyerno after Marcos. Kaya yung mga tao ay hindi ito isa bilang kalimot, kundi parang wala rin naman pala. Baka masubuti pa yung dati. Kaya nagkakaroon ng ganung pagbalik sa desperasyon ng mamamayan doon sa kapalpakan din nung ini-offer nung pumalit kay Marcos. Yung bang elite democracy ay natigil lamang sa ilang bilang ng pamilya sa ating bansa, hindi tumagos yung demokrasya sa hanay ng mga manggagawa, ng ating mga maralita, ng mga driver, ng magsasaka, ng mga pangkaraniwang tao. Hindi nila maramdaman. At ang masakit ay parang pagpapatuloy lamang ng mga karahasan, kahirapan, tuloy-tuloy na pangungutang, pagkabaon sa pagnanakaw, ay nagtuloy-tuloy lang naman yun eh.
Nagtuloy-tuloy, Pati yung mga political families. Political families, nandun pa rin sila, no? In the post-Marcos Congress, for example, andyan sila lahat. But Calyodi, are you saying na you agree with political analysts when they say that this election could be a referendum on EDSA? And not just the Duterte administration, because you have Marcos who has 40% of the vote in the latest survey, in the latest survey rankings, above 40%, di ba?
Yung pagtaas ng rango ni Marcos o ni Sara, may malaking factor diyan yung perang pinapakawalan nila. Grabe kasi yung perang pinapakawalan para ipatampukin o baguhin, revise yung buong kasaysayan ng panahon ni Marcos. Kaya parang nabobola, nalilin lang yung ating mamayan using yung kanilang perang ninakaw nung panahon ng kailang panunungkulan.
Calyodi, itutuloy po natin itong conversation na ito after the break. Still that on Newsnight, like we said, we're still going to get Calyodi de Guzman's take on several issues, and a look also at the latest trailer of the third Spider-Man film, No Way Home. Stay with us here on Newsnight on CNN Philippines.
RPN Dexki Radio Runda 1053 kHz.
DXKD Ronda Balita. Mga balitang may kamatuuran, way gidapigan o hilisgutanan sa katawhan. DXKD Ronda Balita. Mga labas nga mga balita gikan sa sinaligang mga tinubdagan. Balitang hinimo sa lawak balitaanan. Diin inyong madungog ang mga balitang lokal, regional, national o international o uban pang may kalabutan sa atong kadiliman. Gihatod kaninyo live gikan sa RPN DXKD Radio Ronda Broadcast Center. DXKD Ronda Balita. Inyong madungog matag adlang Lunes hangtod Biyernes alas 12 hangtod sa alas 2 sa kahaponon ug makita usab sa RPN DXKD Dipolog Facebook page, YouTube ug sa Twitter. DXKD Ronda Balita.
Kalandraka tulumanon nga kulbahinam sa mga suking tigpaminaw, mga tigmo nga nagtangag sa pinyong makalingaw. Kalandrakas musabwag usab sa mga impormasyon nga may kalamdigitan sa kalambuan o kayuhan sa katawhan. Kalandrakas mualagad kaninyo. Kalandrakas
News Recap Pupong on board. Pangitabo sa tulo ka distrito sa Zamboanga del Norte, kalambuan sa politika, showbiz o agrikultura. News Recap Pupong on board. Kinilang sa Radio Ronda alas 6 ngadto sa alas 9 adlawng Domingo. RPN Dexki Radio Runda 1053 kHz.
7 This line will be 22.8 kilometers long, with 14 stations that can accommodate up to 650,000 passengers daily from Quezon City to San Jose del Monte, Bulacan, and vice versa. It is expected to reduce travel time down to approximately 35 minutes one way. With a total of 36 train sets or 108 train cars being procured from South Korea Hyundai Rodam, this rail will connect MRT-3 and LRT-1. Housing the trains is not a concern, as SMC's depot can hold up to 150 trains for future capacity expansion. As for the performance, factory acceptance testing for the initial 6 train sets, or 18 cars, was also conducted in South Korea. Once completed, MRT-7 is seen to offer a faster and safer means of transportation and spur economic growth in the northern part of Metro Manila and the province of Bulacan.
Welcome back to CNN Philippines. It's official. Presidential aspirant Bongbong Marcos and vice presidential hopeful and Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte are teaming up for next year's elections. Despite this, Mayor Sara's father, the president, is still pushing for another tandem. What does this mean for others joining the 2022 race? Our Rex Demetrio gives us the details.
No matter how long the negotiations, along with speculations, and even some drama, things eventually ended up with the Bongbong Marcos-Sara Duterte tandem. For supporters, it's a dream team. For critics, it's a nightmare coming. Both Marcos and Sara Duterte confirmed their tandem Tuesday evening. A coalition between Marcos's Partido Federal and Sara Duterte's Lakas CMD has also been formalized. For a political analyst, this will boost their chances of winning.
It's a strong tandem but not necessarily unbeatable, di ba?
Sila parating titingnan, sila parating obserbahan. So the other contenders will definitely keep a watchful eye on the Sara Bongbong tandem.
The two say they will also go around the country to campaign and seek for more support. But the tandem may also have its own challenges. Sara's father, President Duterte, does not support her partnership with Marcos. He wants his daughter to run with his longtime aide, Senator Bongo, who also wants to run with Sara. Support for Go and Sara is the president's quote standing order to almost 100 lawmakers who attended the meeting at the palace Tuesday evening. Marcos chief executive, the father and daughter, will not help the campaigns of Marcos, Sara and Go.
They're coming from the same base yung base ni Duterte, di ba? That would definitely split their voting base.
Franco adds it can even help the opposition and other candidates, but not enough to overtake Marcos, who's leading in a sponsored survey. Will others catch up?
This time that there's already the tandem, they will need to recalibrate or rethink yung kanilang campaign strategies.
More than 6 months to go before elections, and it's still anybody's ballgame. With battle lines drawn, voters now have the time to choose their leaders for the next 6 years wisely. Rex Remitio, CNN Philippines.
Meanwhile, Mayor Sara Duterte confirming she has accepted the offer of her party, Lakas CMD, to be its chairperson as part of efforts to solidify her campaign with Marcos. It was Senator Bong Revilla himself who offered his post. Now, last night, I spoke to another expert about the different tandems floated by the administration. For De La Salle University political science professor Julio Tiangki, the president endorsing the Go Duterte ticket, even while the Marcos Duterte tandem is already made official, shows the failure of the administration to unite its forces for 2022. Here's what he told me on Politics as Usual last night.
Ang nagkakasala sa labat ng mga kwento nila, no? The objective of the game is actually to coordinate, no, if they want to consolidate their forces, no. But apparently what's happening here is failure in coordination, no. So reaction sa isa't isa, no, sa mga galaw nila, no, at parang chess yan, no, nag-abang sila kalaban nila at saka sila gumalaw, no. Kaso lang sa sobrang dami na naglalaro, medyo nagugulo na yung laro, no, at medyo nalilito na rin ang taong bayan.
Another catch the full interview on the replay of Politics as Usual this Sunday, 7 in the evening, only here on CNN Philippines. Another presidential aspirant, Senator Manny Pacquiao, remains confident he will clinch a majority of the votes from the Visayas and Mindanao. This despite Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte's support for former Senator Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Pacquiao says he believes most voters in the Visayas and Mindanao will vote for a Visayan for president. The senator also unfazed by voter preference surveys showing him lagging behind other presidential aspirants. He says the warm reception he gets from the people during his sorties proves he is popular among voters. Pacquiao spoke before 400 pastors in Bulacan and paid a courtesy call on Sibac Party List Representative Eddie Villanueva, who heads the Jesus is Lord Church. Pacquiao also met with Bulacan Governor Daniel Fernando to seek his support.
Pwede naman yung mind conditioning sa taong bayan magpalabas silang palabas ng survey ng gano'n, alba, like online. Pag mag-survey ka sa online, daig talaga ako kasi marami sila, wala naman ako, hindi ako gumagamit ng troll At the end of the day, ang taong bayan ang pipili, ang buboto. No, alam ko na ang mga mahihirap na tao, ang mga nagugutom na pamilya ng bawat Pilipino, nararamdaman nila yung naintindihan nila ako kung bakit ako ganito dahil dyan doon ako galing. At alam ko na susuportahan nila ako.
The group of presidential aspirant and Manila Mayor Isko Moreno, meanwhile, says it is not bothered by the Marcos-Duterte tandem. Campaign chief Lito Banayo says it does not diminish Moreno's chances in 2022. Banayo says Moreno has visited different provinces